the science is very personalized, as opposite to what you just said, that there are very standardized rules with respect to allopathy. It is pseudo science in a way that it is not standardized, but still we can bring in standardization in personalization and personalization in standard. And that is precisely
the theme in Western medicine as well. Now they are studying DNA and they are saying we are going to customize.
Yes, it's going in the same way. The ancient Vaidya, the first ones, maybe Charak and Shushruta, they were the data scientists. This is my hard belief, that they actually saw so many patients, so many plants, herbs and so on. And then they came up with some set of rules which can be used, which cannot be used. They have realized that based on some cyclic nature, there are days when some things are up, some things are down. In rainy season, when there is winter and so on. Also, when moon is at some position, moon is at some other position. So that's why when I said earlier, there are so many Naadis, it's of that day also. So that's why the complexity is very high. When I started working this particular field, the entire diagnostics or Naadi Pariksha as such was 2 hours out of the whole curriculum of 4 years.
Wow.
And in third year or fourth year, as part of your internship or when you actually go out of your college, you actually go to some guru and you learn Naadi Pariksha from that guru as part of Guru Shishya Parampara.
For a man, you measure the Naadi on the right hand. For a woman, you do it on the left hand. Tell us what's this left-right going on with the gender?
It is said that this is more like a, karta dharta hand, and this is more like a creative hand. So that's why for male we say that we'll check on this hand.
That's gender stereotyping to a large extent.
So that is how it is done. But all the Vaidyas with whom I have worked, they check both the Naadis, because both the Naadis have different set of information. We Indians lack the product design skills. We create good technology, we create good solutions, but not the products.
That's a very important advice for the audience. If you are making a product, go to good product designers.
Absolutely. I completely I thank him for giving me that particular advice. Because we wanted all to follow, we put it into our dharma, we put it in our culture, and we think that is more, Sanskriti, dharma and so on, but it's actually science, and we have to look at it, we have to open our eyes and look at it from the science point of view, and I think it will help everyone. So on that Eureka point, Eureka Day, basically I took that particular graph, showed it to him. Just looking at the graph, he said that it's a female pulse, 25-30 age group. She's having a chest pain. She is having chest pain because of gases. Ask her to do so and so. Okay, just based on the graph. By 2030, all hospitals will have, if there are 2 floors, one will be modern medicine, one will be some other path. That's going to be the future.
Welcome to today's episode of 42 Talks, where you get an answer to everything. Today we have with us Dr. Aniruddha Joshi, the inventor of Naadi Tarangini. Now, Aniruddha started his academics as a computer engineer and later on got a PhD in computer science from IIT Bombay. But that was during this thesis that a very personal event with his dad led him to discover the miracle of Ayurveda through Naadi examination. His invention, the Naadi Tarangini, is now bringing a lot of data to Naadi Parikshans, the evaluation of the pulse in the wrist, and is demystifying the whole aspect of Ayurveda diagnosis. His startup has now been mentioned as the National Startup of the Year in 2021, and his work has found a mention in the Mann Ki Baat by the Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Modi. His groundbreaking work on bringing statistical evidence to Ayurveda is getting international recognition, with even companies like Unilever and FMCG giants working with him to identify what oils and lotions we should put on our body. His work is also shaking our beliefs in our ancient knowledge in fasting on particular days, and that our body actually sways to the rhythm of the lunar cycle. We're very curious to understand this aspect of Ayurveda and his own insights that are coming from the data. Please welcome Dr. Aniruddha Joshi for today's 42 Talks. So welcome, Aniruddha. We are very happy to have you on 42 Talks. I think you're doing something very exceptional, and we are going to talk about the new age science that you're marrying with our old traditions. I'm very curious to understand a lot more. Actually, it's very complex to describe what you are doing and where you have landed, why you have landed, your journey so far. So I think at the very beginning, what do you do and what's your background that has led you to this point in life? That will be the best question to start off with. So please tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do and how did you end up doing this?
Okay, thanks, Pushkar. Thanks for inviting me to this your 42 talks.
Yeah.
I'm almost 42, so it's relevant. Basically, by education, I'm a computer engineer from Mumbai University, and I did my PhD from IIT Bombay in computer science. And currently, we are building the personalized predictive health monitor based on Ayurveda. So, a computer engineer creating a tech product in Ayurveda has been my journey so far, and I think that will be my journey for next 20 years. So, while I was doing engineering, my father was not well, and we took many treatments, and eventually we met an Ayurveda Acharya, a Naadi Tagya, Vaidyaraj Ashok Bhatt from Patre Maruti here in Pune. And he solved my dad's problem through Naadi Pariksha. And as engineers, we both, myself, my dad, we got amazed what exactly happened, and that was the first trigger point, mainly from my dad's point of view. He's a chemical engineer. He's a Padma Bhushan scientist, and his area is fluid dynamics. So he thought that some fluid dynamics is happening here in this particular tube, which is artery, and he asked me to solve that particular problem. And I took that as a challenge. As part of my PhD thesis, I solved this, came up with a prototype, and that's how the journey started.
Okay. That's super interesting. Like a fluid dynamics telling a computer engineer guy,
Yes.
now we need to bring some
Correct.
tech
A
to...
chemical engineer guy asking computer science engineer to solve Ayurveda problem.
Superb. But you make a very important point. So let's go step by step. I want to come to your technology aspect, why you chose to do this eventually. In the journey of your father's treatment, you mentioned that a lot was not working and you ended up meeting the Ayurveda guy. That seems like almost the case with most people. People try everything.
Yes.
And then they say, oh, nothing's working, or perhaps limited results.
Yes.
Now let's start doing alternative.
Correct.
And probably my sense is that a lot of people also look at it like a pseudo science.
Yes.
Now that you are so deep into Ayurveda that you have decided to bring technology to it, did not those questions arrive to you that, oh, I'm working with pseudo science, let me test it, is it real science? So how did your belief in Ayurveda first start with? And what is your general experience around how people pursue Ayurveda? Let's start with that because, Ayurveda is going through a big revolution right now, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the question is small, but the answer is going to be big.
Yeah.
So, it started more like a surprise to us that a manual Naadi Pariksha, just using 3 fingertips on the same artery, you are getting so much information about the entire body, about mind, about so many organ systems and so on. I'll tell you in a very short thing that my father actually was having some tremor-like situation, and we thought it's a mind-related issue. It's a obvious guess, and we did many. We went to multiple doctors and so on, and ultimately Vaidyaraj said that this issue is not just mind, but also your stomach is not clean, which is not helping the medicines to solve your problem. So he actually also gave the medicines for the stomach and so on, and that's how eventually it worked. So that was like the first time we experienced Ayurveda in our life, and then my dad asked me to, as I told you, to work on this. So I took this and we started working with multiple doctors, including Vaidyaraj. And while doing that, I was interacting with them, talking to them. And what I realized was each Vaidya, each doctor has a different language. They are not talking the same language similar to modern medicine. So the language was different. The way Naadis felt, it is different. and of course the problems are different. So that is why, maybe that is the reason why this is not called as a science in today's language. It's more as a alternative science or pseudo science, as what you said. But now I'm this field for last 15 years, and I'm looking at this purely from data point of view. I'm not a Ayurveda person. I'm not a homeopathy. I'm not a modern medicine person. I'm a data person. My specialization in IT was data analysis or machine learning. So from that point of view, when I look at into this, and I'll come to this journey again while we are speaking. But let me tell you that now in my company, we have generated data of more than 5 lakh patients. So when I talk about that range of people, and now the rules are coming out, now the machine is learned and so on, the data says it's not a pseudoscience. There are
So now
definitive.
finally you have some modern evidence.
Yes, that something can come out of this. So from data point of view, we are completely looking into this particular science, and we are trying to solve this. So let me say that this is my short answer. But the experiences I had with Vaidyaraj during my PhD years, those were like transforming kind of years where, yes, those experiences are not explainable in today's kind of language of science. But now when I look at those experiences again, when I revisit them in today's, when I have this much data, I see that what he was talking was not something with respect to Siddhi or something with respect to Ayurveda, but it's not magical. It is pure science and so on. So that's the journey. That's the journey we are on.
So, Ayurveda has been written for centuries,
Yes.
right? Like right from the beginning. And there's a lot of
5,000
debate.
years, they say.
Yeah. And there's a lot of debate.
Yes.
So I'm pretty sure you've gone back in history for your research as well. How has my limited understanding about how allopathy, the Western medicine,
Yes.
differs from all the traditional medicines is
Yes.
Western medicine bases everything on randomized control trial,
Yes.
statistical significance,
Yes.
evidence.
Yes.
And probably all the other traditional medicines, be it Chinese, Unani, others,
Yes.
they seem to have not showcased evidence in the modern context.
Yes.
However, I'm pretty sure people must have thought about it differently in the ancient times.
Correct.
Do you have any references how they brought evidence to this back in their own understanding?
Well, we are creating such evidence, and I always say in any of my lectures or whenever I have conversations with the Vaidyas also, that the ancient Vaidya, the first ones, maybe Charak and Shushruta, they were the data scientists. This is my hard belief, that they actually, saw so many patients, so many plants, herbs, and so on. And then they came up with some set of rules which can be used, which cannot be used, and so on. Of course, the science is very personalized, as opposite to what you just said, that there are very standardized, rules with respect to allopathy. कि अगर बुखार हुआ है तो ये मेडिसिन है, if this is the issue then, and for Ayurveda it goes slightly beyond कि वो बुखार क्यों हुआ है, why this fever has, is it because of some viral effect, or is it because of the environmental effect, or is it my own stress, or what is the problem, what is the root cause, and so that is how the solution happens. Having said that, with this data, we have started statistical significance on Naadi Pariksha in Ayurveda, and we see that there are absolutely seasonal components, what we call is circadian rhythm, for which 5-6 years ago a Japanese doctor got the Nobel Prize. So in Ayurveda there is a theory of prahar. So every prahar, every day is divided into 6 parts, and every prahar defines who you are. So we see that there are effects with respect to Naadi in different prahars for the same person. Every minute the Naadi is changing and so on. And we see that even though it's very personalized, there is a standardization possible, which we are basically trying to prove.
Very
cool. So yes, it is pseudoscience in a way that it is not standardized, but still we can bring in standardization in personalization and personalization in standard, and that is precisely
the theme in Western medicine as well. Now they are studying DNA and they are saying we are going to customize.
It's going in the same way. So it is now going towards more towards patient-centric approach.
Correct.
So what we have been talking about that since day one. Yeah. So now they have realized the power of it, and that's why we are not talking about modern medicine. We are not talking about Ayurveda or other pathys, what we are saying is an integrative health approach, integrative medicine, and that is what is going to be the future. By 2030, all hospitals will have, both. If there are two floors, one will be modern medicine, one will be some other pathy. That's going to be the future.
So let's get to the real topic now. What is the Naadi? You are saying that 3 points on
Yes.
our wrist tells you the entire story of.
Yes.
It's much deeper than that, I believe.
Absolutely.
So please demystify this whole Naadi thing and tell us the Ayurveda concept of Naadi, and then we'll of course come back to the technology part.
Excellent. So, so my journey started when Vaidyaraj felt my dad's Naadi for the first time using 3 fingertips. So we realized that there are 3 pressure points, there are 3 pickup points, which are basically telling a lot of information about the body. So when I read about it, basically it talks about there's something called Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Okay. 3 pressure points at these 3 locations.
Right.
So the first location, Vata, typically I'll talk very broadly, is all about movements. Right. So my hand is moving, my respiration is moving, my blood is moving, my thoughts are moving. So any movement related information is felt under the first fingertip. The second fingertip is called Pitta location. So Pitta is typically all types of energies. So my Jatharagni, which is my digestive fire, my mind energy, all other energies which are throughout my body. And third is about structures, Kapha Nadi. So structures is how I look, lubrication, everything. So more like input, output, transformation, storage, something is going out, and so on. So whether it's physiological, psychological, whether it's computer system, whether the Naadi machine which I have created, any system in nature is something with respect to input output, some transformation is happening, and ultimately there is some storage. So that's why the rules which are set here are applicable to any system across the world. So Naadi is rhythm, the whole nature is rhythmic, so is my body, so is earth, and so on. So that's why Pindite Brahmandya. So what we say is like that. Once we know these rules, I can solve earthquake, I can solve some, for example, Vaidyaraj had told us about the tsunami 2 days ago, which, the best sensors were not able to capture. Wow. So he had told us, not exactly that this location, so and so, but he said that the colors in the sky are different, that rhythm is different, the flow of air is different, and so on. So there is something arrhythmic which is happening. A big natural issue is coming up. Whether that's earthquake or tsunami, that he could not tell of. But anyway, so going back, so there are 3 things which are moving here under 3 fingertips. If I talk about fluid dynamics from yes, that was my point of view, there is a tube. There is water inside it which is flowing. It has its own flow rate. It has its own viscosity, some ingredients, and so on. From top, I am applying some pressure. If I press this particular point, there is a bone below this particular tube. If I press this particular point, there is a space below the tube, below the artery. And if I press this particular fingertip, there is a muscle below this particular tube.
You distinctly know where you're putting your fingers.
Yes. So same pressure is from up. There is same flow inside the tube, but the pressure points from below are different. So depending upon your bone structure, the space, muscle strength, and all, the fluid is not moving in the same way, but it has its own dynamics, and which are creating different pressure variations at this particular.
This makes it so easy to understand now. Otherwise, yes, it's mystery. So the hemodynamics that you describe from a very physical standpoint, that there's a tube water and the below lying artifacts are actually giving the 3 pulses. That helps you to understand very, very well. Otherwise, for a layman, it's like, अरे ये 3 points पे 3 hours के आ रहे हैं, इसके अलावा कुछ नहीं.
Correct.
So yeah.
So I was mentioning about 3 points, right? So when you, as a common man, you just understand, okay, my Naadis is available, and okay, I am alive. That's all. You also asked me question whether I can do my own Naadi Pariksha or not. So I'm basically answering that question. So if I slightly feel that with more concentration, I can feel couple of things, tuck, 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 because it's, after all, it's a manifestation of heart. But Vaidraj used to say that this is not a heart signal, this is a manacha alekh, man ka alekh, right?
Wow.
So mind is basically what is found here in the pulse, is what he used to say. Of course, right now, the whole analysis, the whole statistical analysis we are doing with respect to heart, because mind is slightly, it will come in some time, not now, because we have to prove a lot of things from the proven terminology. When a good Vaidya feels it with fingertips, they feel it at multiple locations. On one fingertip, it's more like 3D, 3x3 matrix, 5x5 matrix,
Wow.
2x2 matrix, and so on. So using 3 fingertips, you have either 27 points or 8 points, or depending upon who is looking into it, and so on. And then it is like Vata finger. On that, it's a 3D, 3x3. So Vata, 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 Pitta, Kapha, and so on. On one fingertip, second and third. And so you go deeper and deeper. What exactly is happening where? Secondly, what I just described is more like XY. There is also deeper. You go deeper in the pulse, like you press more and more, and you get yet another set of information, because now the dynamics is changing again. Again, the pressure points are same from below, but more pressure is applied. So I'm basically restricting the flow of the water inside the tube, and which is creating more. So depending upon the viscosity or flow rate or the muscular all properties or space properties and so on, which at that time we called as Vatpit Kaf or Samana Nadi, Sama Nadi, Kathina Nadi, Tikshna Nadi. So if it is like, hitting like with a sharp weapon, it's a Tikshna Nadi and so on. So that is how it was told in ancient literature. But this is how. So as a common man, yes, you can realize that you are alive. The best you can realize, for example, when you wake up in the morning, you feel with concentration, and you will realize that your Naadi is touching here on this side of the pulse. Okay? And when you go to the bathroom, you come out of the bathroom and you again feel it. You'll realize that the same pulse is now touching at this section of your Naadi. So there are various Nadis. There is something called Apana Nadi, which is downward energy. It is pushing something down. So that is what we want to do early in the morning, that we go to the bathroom, we push everything down, it goes away. When you come out of the bathroom, your Apana Vayu, your Apana energy is gone. So that point does not, feel the energy, but the other one, which is more like some other energy. I'll not go into deeper. But such realizations you can do. But from diagnostics point of view, I think it's too much knowledge. It's too many points. It's, that a common man may not be able to do Nadi Pariksha. But still, I'll advise that you should read Ayurveda, you should read Nadi Pariksha, you should know what is happening in general. But if there is some issue, you should go to the doctor.
How many nadis are described in Ayurveda? Like Apana and all the other things that you're saying?
So they say 10,000s of.
Wow.
So it's a big combination of so many things. So there is 3 doshas, 15 sabdosh, 20 gunas, sapta dhatus, and so on. So there's so much bifurcation. So if you do 3 into 5 into 7 into 20 into and so on, it's a wide range. It's a long range.
And it's a combination of
It's a
things.
combination
So
of this.
5 factorial
correct,
something,
correct. So
something.
that's how it actually makes.
Permutation,
So
combination.
that's only Nadi. Then it comes age group. Then it comes whether it's male, female. Then whether you are in Pune or Mumbai or some hill area. Then comes what is the Rutu around you. Then it becomes what time of the day is. So every time of the day, every Rutu, every season, every location, every stress quotient has a Vatpit Kav, its own Vatpit Kav, which is creating, environment around you. And that's why, you are a different person. You are a different person in family. You are a different person in your friends. You are a different person in your office.
Absolutely.
So that's what is happening morning, afternoon, evening, or Vasan, Shishir, and so on. So basically, and you have to look that particular Nadi from, where you are, why you are there, and so on. So so that's why it's 10,000s of Nadi. It's not that it's a type of Nadi in why, where, how, all those questions. If you multiple It's a huge complex problem to solve.
So, Aniruddha, there's a very pressing question that comes to my mind. I used to work for a healthcare training company where we used to design devices to train healthcare workers acquire skills, because a skilled healthcare worker will do wonders.
Yes.
Now, you're telling me on the finger trip, I have a 27-point matrix. How does somebody train for this? Is there a training description in the literatures? And I believe people had powers which were lost. Let's work on that hypothesis. Do you think the modern courses of Ayurveda are able to train for this? Because I don't feel my fingertip is sensitive for 27 points. So how do I train for that?
So when I did my engineering, I learned Pascal as part of my curriculum. I came out of my engineering, and the first project I did as part of my PhD and all was in MATLAB and C. So similar to that, even in medicine or in Ayurveda, what is taught and what you have to do, sometimes there is a gap. The current board of NCSM is working very hard on it. And when I started working this particular field, the entire diagnostics or Naadi Pariksha as such was 2 hours out of the whole curriculum of 4 years.
Wow.
Okay, that is how it was. And in third year or fourth year, as part of your internship or when you actually go out of your college, you actually go to some guru and you learn Naadi Pariksha from that guru as part of Guru Shishya Parampara. So that is how it. So if that guru has a typical methodology of how to check the Naadi, how to press, where to put the, and so on, then basically the student gets trained in that Guru Shishya Parampara. And that's why there are different Guru Shishya Paramparas across India, and they have different languages. So first of all, there is no one method.
Okay.
Secondly, let me tell you very specifically, I have not learned Naadi Pariksha. So while I was doing my PhD and postdoc on this particular machine, and we were discussing with Vaidraj, and we realized the very same problem that the Bhatt Samskruti, he was a Vaidraj Bhatt. So Bhatt Samskruti is different from Nanmal, from Lavgankar. I'm talking about Pune. Different
घरानास जैसे होते म्यूजिक
घरानास जैसे होते वैसा. So these are different. So if I learn one particular method of Naadi Pariksha, maybe I'll get biased to that method, and maybe I will create a technology for that method. So that's why with discussions we realized that I should never learn Naadi Pariksha. That's the cautious discussion and decision that we took. And so that's why it's now very easy for me to talk to you as a Vaidya, him as a Vaidya, her as a Vaidya, because I'm very open-minded. And for me, it's a time series data. It's a time series data coming out of the sensor, and she's giving her domain expertise, you are giving domain expertise, and so on. So that is how I look. Whether you as a common man, can you learn Naadi Pariksha was your question. Of course, you can do that. Absolutely. Because this is not, based on all these 15, 17 years which I have sent, this is not a medical, of course, it's a medical knowledge, but it's not a knowledge for which you have to do some specific BAMS course and all. You can always go to any guru who is teaching Naadi, and then that I want to learn Naadi Pariksha. For my own profession, for example, you are a product designer. You are creating a medical device for a particular company for which you want to understand when your brain works the best. Okay, you want to test, you want that particular information. Based on who you are, how you appear, and so on, we'll ask you a few questions, and we'll understand your constitution, something called Prakriti in Ayurveda. Okay. But there is a possibility that you are at your best in the morning,
right,
and you may not be in the afternoon, evenings, and so on. But to realize that, maybe you use Naadi Pariksha for that, for which you want to learn Naadi Pariksha, and not for diagnostics. So for that reason, you can always go to a Vaidya. You can always go to a Naadi Guru and learn Naadi Pariksha. Very recently, as I said, the NCSM board, which defines the curriculum of Ayurveda, has taken very drastic changes, very progressive changes, that they have inserted technology-based Naadi Pariksha courses for all the colleges across India.
Okay.
And we happen to be one of such products called Naadi Tarangini. And I have created a Naadi course, very basic to start with, which has 8 lectures. So I have just launched that particular website called Samvit Chakra. So it has a pre-recorded 8 lectures from 8 best of best Nadi Vaidyas, and they have taught about what is Nadi in nature, what is Nadi in your body, then what is Vat Pitta Kapha, some terminologies, what are gunas, what are, and if you happen to listen to that lecture, you'll get all your homework.
Okay.
That lecture series does not teach you actual Nadi Pariksha, because this is a very different experience for
Yeah,
which
I can
you
imagine.
have to of course go to some Vaidya. We are also going to start our own in-house sessions and so on. But there are total 6 lakh Ayurveda doctors across India, and I'm sure thousands of them definitely know Nadi Pariksha. So you have to find out that particular doctor and you can learn from them.
So you're saying out of 6 lakhs practicing Ayurveda doctors, it's in thousands who are
Few
good
thousands
at Nadi?
only who can actually do Nadi Pariksha.
It looks like a difficult skill to acquire. But at the same time, you mentioned that it's more than that, with your gender, your environment, all of
Yes,
that.
yes.
And one thing that I particularly picked up was that you always measure for a man, you measure the nadi on the right hand. For a woman, you do it on the left hand. Tell us what's this left-right going on with the gender?
Well, it's very personalized. Every doctor has his or her own set of rules. The way we have right brain, left brain, that kind of terminology is said. It is said that this is more like a karta dharta hand, and this is more like a creative hand. In broader sense, if I want to say. So that's why for male we say that we'll check on this
That's
hand.
gender stereotyping to a
Right.
large
So
extent.
that is how it is done. But
Okay.
all the Vaidyas with whom I have worked, they check both the nadis.
Oh, okay.
They check because both the nadis have different set of information.
Okay.
And our device, when we check using sensors, we receive a completely 2 different sets of graphs on our server. And so even though the heart is same, the information received on this particular wrist and the information received on this particular wrist completely different. In fact, in one of our experiments, we took a nadi of a paralysis person.
Okay.
The person who had a complete, inactive this particular section, but nadi was moving. So his right nadi of the inactive body part was better than than the active body, and so on. So different experiences and so on. So so typically the different research studies, when we implement with respect to a typical protocol driven medical clinical validation kind of setup, in which we have limited time, where we can take only one nadi of a person. In that particular sense, in that protocol, we say that okay, for males take a right hand, for female left hand.
Achha.
But when we have enough time in that study,
You would
we took
always
both
do
the hands.
both.
It's a good idea to take both the nadis, because it's better to know everything about me through both my hands.
Was the fact that only a few thousands of the 6 lakh medical practitioners would know how to do a nadi, was that the genesis for you saying, let me
No,
democratize
it's
this?
not like that. See, in the ancient days, it was taught more like a Guru Shishya Parampara. You have to go to a Guru to learn. And the first thing they will teach is Nadi Pariksha, because there is something called Ashtavidha Pariksha, 8-fold diagnostic system. So there is pulse, there is tongue, there is eyes, there is whole akruti, the whole how the body looks, stools, urine, and so on. So there are 8 things, and they will start with that. When a typical curriculum was set in modern sense, different we have objections against different education systems and so on. So similarly, in this system, the typical diagnostic that particular chapter got a little less weightage, is what I think. This is my limited knowledge. And that's why, there are 6 lakh doctors who have completed their BMS course, but who did not do, let's say, internship, or who did not go to gurus to learn something more. They never learned Nadi Pariksha. So that's why they don't know. It's not that they cannot do that. It's just that they never did Nadi Pariksha.
The question actually is that when you said after your education, you're starting your career and you said, I have entrepreneurial dreams, let me make a Naadi Tarangini machine that will help people analyze Nadis. What is your conviction? Where is it coming from? Why did you choose that as a business idea? Where did you see the opportunity? That was the main question over there.
Okay. All right. So, first of all, I'm not an entrepreneur by birth, let me put it that way. So, there is something called Prakriti and Vikruti kind of terminologies in Ayurveda, who you are and who you are today. So, I call myself as a researchpreneur. So, I'm a researcher first and turned into. So, I told you about my IIT days. When I actually submitted my thesis, the first internal reaction was this may not get accepted. I had a patent, I had 8 journal and conference papers, but because it was based on Ayurveda, which is not a science, from IIT Bombay perspective, this is a non-scientific work. That was, the preliminary, I guess, but eventually it got accepted. Not just accepted, but I received almost 1.25 crore grant from the government to convert my thesis into a prototype. So that work all happened at NCL. Thankfully, my co-guide at that time asked me not to accept any job offer and continue this work. And thankfully, I accepted that particular advice by him, and the work started. So the work started at NCL under the guidance of Dr. B.D. Kulkarni. And we solved this problem. So we installed at 20 hospitals, collected a lot of data, and I was enjoying that. Again, a lot of papers, a lot of students, and so on. And I was offered a scientist post. The interviews were going on. And in one of the conferences, I got introduced to Anand Deshpande of Persistence Systems. And when he saw this work and, he advised me thoroughly that I should come out of the academics and start my own journey of entrepreneurship and basically take this to the world. So it was a big battle at home because my family has been into academics, whether it's my father, both brothers, everyone into academics. And I took this advice of, starting my own company. So so because of Anand, I started the company. He helped me in my initial days. And then in that validation phase of 3 years at NCL, I worked with 20 hospitals, basically hardcore hospitals, out of which few of them were allopathy hospitals and few of them were Ayurveda hospital, Ayurveda clinics, small Ayurveda charya and so on. And the experience was phenomenal. I saw the need of the patients that they are coming to Ayurveda for a reason, but they are not getting something in hand. Basically, they are getting cured. They are getting what they actually want, but they are not fully satisfied. Similar to, because today's patient is very informed patient. They want something कि ये मेडिसिन मुझे क्यों दिया है या मुझे क्या हुआ है, आप मुझे ये मेडिसिन क्यों दे रहे हैं, उस मेडिसिन में क्या है, and typical questions of a patient, which was a need which I saw. And that's how the entrepreneurial journey started working slowly with respect to learning Naadi, then realized I should not learn Naadi, and that is how the whole journey.
You do that when by doing, right?
Correct.
You don't know that before you start.
Absolutely no.
But you want to talk something about like what's the machine that you have built?
Absolutely.
Can you
so I
tell us?
just showed that it is done using 3 fingertips.
Yeah.
So that's the machine, Naadi Tarangini. It's a tabletop unit, similar to how a typical BP machine or a small ECG machine will look like. The story behind this design is very interesting. I was presenting in one of the conferences in Coimbatore, and I happened to meet Padma Vibhushan scientist, doctor, cardiologist or surgeon, I forgot, but Dr. Valiyathan, and who had started working in Ayurveda as a surgeon. He started, and I showed him that this is, of course, it was not this, but some earlier machine, that I'm creating a Naadi machine. So the only advice he gave me that please go to the best product designer. We Indians lack the product design skills. We create good technology, we create good solutions, but not the products.
Yeah.
That's the advice.
That's a very important advice for the audience. If you are making a product, go to good product designers.
Correct. Absolutely.
I can only say that.
Absolutely. I completely I thank him for giving that particular advice. And then I went to one of the best designers, Satish Gokhale of Design Directions, and the journey started with reaching out to various Vaidyas. How do they do Naadi Pariksha, and so how the machine should look. So what we realized that different doctors have different methodologies. Some do while sitting, some do they ask patients to sleep and then they do Naadi Pariksha. Some say check like this so that it's on the heart level. Some do like this. some do with hands open, some do with hands closed, and there's so many methods. But ultimately what we did was the way Vaidyas will feel using 3 fingertips. Now we have 3 pressure sensors inside this. Each pressure sensor is of the sensitivity of this particular fingertip. And again, this fingertip sensitivity is different from this. Again, from this, it's usually 1:2 1/4 typically.
Okay.
If you can feel yourself, you will realize that this is most sensitive finger. But we have chosen the most sensitive sensor, and which is this finger. And
So you're
So
basically
now-
simulating the 3 fingers over there.
absolutely. So now, as a practitioner, as a doctor, I wear this so that now these 3 become my 3 digital fingers. The patient will keep the hand on this particular.
So you're
assembly.
giving a posture like this.
Yes. So all data, all 5 lakh data we have received so far is collected in the same way, more like a standardization way. So first level standardization is how we are collecting data. We have also defined the angle at which the wrist will open up, so that the Naadi gets opened up, and we are collecting the data. So Naadi gets opened up, and now we are keeping the sensors on that particular patient. So let's assume that I have to, and then the doctor will check the pulse like this.
Okay. And there's a graphical output.
That
to
is the
this
graphic. So you can realize that similar to a typical ECG system or MRI graph, where there is a sensor, there is a whole data acquisition system, and then there is a visualization. In the similar way, this particular machine is connected to either your laptop or your mobile through Bluetooth or through USB cable, and you realize that there will be 3 graphs, 3 running graphs for Vat Pitta Kapha. So now we have 3 sensors for 3 positions. So you see 3 graphs. You collect that data for about a minute, and the data is sent to our centralized server where our machine learning algorithms run, and you get a report card. So it's a typical wellness/medical system in which a physiological signals is picked up, more like a pressure or palpitation signal. It is visualized, and then there is a report card. So that report card is helpful for doctors to talk to the patient.
I'm very curious to hear about your 5 lakh data points.
Yes.
That is 5 lakh data points?
Yes.
But before I go there, when there is a big change,
Yes.
we often see this in medical device innovation. You
Yes.
change and you're met with so much resistance. So before I get to the data points, because you have collected so many of these, did you meet any resistance from traditional practitioners about this? And how could
Absolutely.
you get over and get them
Absolutely.
convinced?
Absolutely. Because we have been doing Naadi Pariksha for last 5,000 years in a particular way. And now we are coming up with, different ways. The way when, talking about India, when Flipkart came with online book selling system, people realized, no, we have to go to libraries, we have to go to big bookstores. There only we can. So that is how, how it was our system. Or taxi service, we have to, stop the taxi and now we have a taxi system, online taxi system and so on. So similar to that, there is a adoption. There will be a resistance to a new system. Secondly, the main resistance point was this is a Naadi Pariksha is a personalized art. We have to accept it first of all. And now I'm bringing in some kind of standardization into it. So there is some resistance with respect to that. But when doctors started using this, they realized that this particular machine is completely mimicking the way they do manual Naadi Pariksha. It's not that the machine is doing Naadi Pariksha on its own, but the doctor is wearing the sensors. They are doing the Naadi Pariksha. They can press as much as want. They can put the sensors where they want to, and so on. So then, the resistance started slightly slowing down. And when I think about 1 lakh data, we had published our first set of different types of papers based on the collected data, that how Naadi is different in January, how it is different in June, how it is different in the afternoon session, how it is moving with respect to lunar cycle and so on. And then they realized that this particular machine or this particular data is not against them, but it's actually helping them proving Ayurveda in today's language. One, second, it's actually useful as a marketing tool in their business. So when this started and more like mouth to mouth publicity kind of thing, now the resistance value has slowed down. But yes, first 5-6 years, tremendous resistance. But thanks to my family, thanks to my all my Vaidya gurus, mentors, and so on, I stayed. I showed some kind of perseverance to be in this field, and now we are doing good.
सो जब आप मिल रहे थे लोगों को, ये पहली बार मशीन देख रहे थे, लोगों ने कभी देखा नहीं है, आई एम प्रीटी श्योर यू गॉट सम ridiculing comments, or you might have been met with aha surprises. Any particular fond memories of those early days when you were showing the machine for the first time?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I never got ridiculed as such, but there was, I don't want this was a typical response. But thankfully, in my initial days, most of my time I spent with Vaidyaraj Bhatt, who actually solved my dad's problem. And the experiences with them is actually, changed the way I look into this particular field, or in general, जिसको हम जीवन का सार जिसको बोलते हैं, and so on, right? So it started with, typical, I go to Vaidyaraj's clinic, he has a lot of patients, I take their Naadi, I see their graphs, then we discuss that he realized so and so into his Naadi, and this particular graph has so and so pattern, and so on. For example, in Ayurveda, it is something called Sarpagati, Mandukagati, Hausagati, whether a Naadi is moving
animals,
like,
right?
moving like a snake, is it jumping like a frog, is it swimming?
Very interesting.
So there are thousands of gatis or movements of animals. So that is how, in Guru Shishya Parampara, the students used to realize that the snake moves like this, a hungry snake moves like this, and so on. And that is what they will basically try to feel on their pulse. That's another reason why, now I don't see a sarpa, I don't see snake. Then how I will realize this? Another issue in, what we said earlier, that maybe that's another reason why there are less number of Vaidyas who can actually do Naadi Parikshah. That's another possible reason. But again, through visualization in our Samvit Chakra course, we are actually showing that this is a snake Naadi, and so this is a Vata Naadi, and so on, but on a different way. Interestingly, in initial days, Vaidyaraj gave me a different set of experiences. So one, I just told you about, the paralysis, that we actually went to a paralysis patient, and as a common person's thought process, I took the Naadi of the hand, which is active hand, active body. He said that take off the inactive hand and you realize more who that particular person is. And that was one of the experiences. Another very frightening experience I had was one fine afternoon I was in his clinic, and one small girl came to the clinic, and Vaidyaraj told me today is a day, all right. So she was a slow learner, not mati manda, but slow learner. She was a normal person, but very slow learner kind. And she came up with her Aya. And Vaidyaraj took his pulse, her pulse, gave her medicine, everything was done. And then he took her to me, to a table where, I was checking the pulse from the digital Naadi Pariksha point of view. Then he told her to sit in front of me, but she did not do anything. Basically, she will hear and she will follow only instructions of her Aya. Okay. Then the Aya told her that in Marathi, okay, only in Marathi. So Aya told her to sit on the chair, on the stool. Then she said, I will sit on the stool. So the sequence you have to understand is, the Aya will tell her, she will repeat it, and then she will do it. Okay. So she sit. Then on the table, I told her that I'll do your Naadi Pariksha now using the sensor. So Aya said, please keep your hand like this. So she said, मी आता माझा हात असा ठेवते, मैं यहाँ पे अपना हाथ रखती हूँ, and so on. Okay. And at that time, the system was not this good looking. It had a variety of cables, different colors, different sensors coming out of it. And when I was about to put sensors on her hand, she started speaking in Hindi and Urdu suddenly, okay, askhalit, without any prompting and all. And she asked me not to do her Naadi Pariksha because it will basically hurt her. That was the experience that I had. And then in our discussions, Vaidra said, some point was, triggered, and the whole knowledge which is actually stored in our brain, it got triggered, and she could speak. So, I don't know whether it's Punarjanma, this or that, because in her entire life, she has been a Marathi person. She cannot speak on her own. She can only repeat only what Aya says, and she told me not to do anything because it will hurt in Hindi and Urdu. So the value of our different types and from Naadi. So she was solving the problem of her that way from. Okay, that is one of the experience. The other experience on a completely different note is when my first daughter was born, I took her to Vaidraj to show her to Vaidraj. Naadi said, ki, please apply some, oil her on her nose. So, because she was just born, her complete oiling was doing, massaging was going on at home. And then after 3 days, she fell sick. And so we went to some typical GP, and she said, nothing, there is some blockage, and I just apply some oil into that. So, 3 days ago, Vaidraj was able to see that and predict that this is going to happen. So, apply this. So, what's the value of Naadi from that? The another very different experience which I want to solve in next 2 years is something called Duta Naadi.
Okay.
Duta Naadi is, suppose there is a person who is sick but at home, not able to come to me as a doctor. So that particular, for example, a lady. So that particular person will send her husband to me as a doot, as a messenger. Okay. So I'll check your pulse. Then you, as that patient's husband, will deeply think about her. Her Naadi will appear in your Naadi, and that that.
Do you think this really works?
We have done those experiments. Okay. We have done those experiments, and we have seen pregnant Naadi's pulse coming into male Naadi, and we have.
Because again, I believe you will take the data science approach to bring evidence.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what we are going to do, we are currently creating a variable form factor. So a lot of data coming from you, your relatives, and so on. And your common nature will go away. So whatever remains is basically...
Is this almost again might be at the risk of, So there are two thoughts that come to my mind. You've seen the movie Avatar.
Yes.
And there's this...
it's the same thing. You got it. You absolutely got it.
So there's this Ava and you have the pulse through every
It's actually that. It's actually that. When Avatar says it, we think, oh wow, that's that. And when we say it's a Duta Naadi, we call it a Pseudo Science.
Yeah.
So I haven't... It's not that something I have read. It's not something someone has said and have heard. It's something which I have actually experienced. My machine has experienced. Yeah. So I have taken Naadi of paralysis person. I have taken Naadi of a doot person. I have taken Naadi of trees when Vaidraj was talking to the trees and so on. So there are vibrations everywhere, and those vibrations are captured. So this is the whole system that we want to, bring out the rhythm in the nature through this particular Naadi. Of course, this is going to be my pickup point, but this pickup point, realizing the earthquake in Earth, is what is possible, absolutely possible, purely from data point of view.
This sounds truly fascinating.
Absolutely.
And unless you had a machine that showed me an electronic waveform, for a person of my constitution, it would have been very hard for me to trust you on that.
Yes. Same. I mean, 20 years ago, I was you.
Yeah.
10 years ago, I was Midway.
Yeah.
Today also, I'm not 100% convinced. I'm 80-85% convinced because the data is yet to come. The variable is yet to come. Right. So you can realize that the results which we have shown, it actually follows the Rutucharya. So,
but that is exactly what I wanted to come to the next chapter. So perfect segue into what your data speaks now.
Yeah.
So you have 5 lakh data points.
Yes.
Are they the same individuals tracked over? So if you help us understand, are they 5 lakh patients, or you have tracked an N number of patients for N number of days at different, so where the data is coming from? That's number one. And then I'm dying to hear what are your insights from all these data. You're talking about the seasons, you're talking about lunar cycles, and I'm pretty sure with all your connection of dots backwards, you're going to talk about what foods do we have seasonally and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm dying to understand, what is your data going to speak now?
Yeah. So basically, since 2018, I'm selling this particular machine, Naadi Tarangini, to different Vaidyas across India. Of course, between 18 months of COVID, our business got hampered. But otherwise, today in India, about 1,200 Ayurveda doctors are using this particular machine. And on any given day, we get 1,000 to 3,000 Naadis on our server. So when they are collecting data of their patients in an anonymous way, the data is collected on our server for further research and further improvement and so on. So from that sense, the whole data set comprises data coming from doctors, data collected by us for specific reasons, for specific clinical validations, or for different experiments that we do and so on. So it's a completely, a random data, we can call it in that sense. When we do typical statistical evidence, statistical studies, we make sure that we take up all the rules from the basic rules from the Ayurveda 101. We can
Okay.
put it that way. So, for example, when we wanted to do lunar-based experiments, lunar cycle-based, so what we took is all the data which has come from Maharashtra to Delhi, all the doctors who are using them, we collected, we chose only that data. Our assumption was typical environmental seasonal component is constant. That was our assumption. So that's data. So any patient who is coming to that particular clinic in January, in that particular region, is basically considered in January, April data, and so on. So such, in that particular year when we published this paper, we got about 24,600 some patients during that year in that particular region. As a part of the offering of Naadi Tarangini, we give 22 Ayurveda parameters, right? From pulse rate, the Sam Niram, different 20 out of 20, 10 gunas, Agni, Bala, and so on. So these are all, properties which a doctor understands and accordingly treats the patient. So this every parameter, for example, Agni, Jathar Agni, your digestifier, we took that parameter, then we took Bala parameter, then we took Tikshnata parameter, and we realized we took the averages across January, across February, across. So whoever came in January, Vata person, his or her Agni, so all that average value, and so on. So if you see on this screen, you'll realize that all Pitta people are up, all Kapha people are down, and all Vata people are even down. So every person, based on the personality, has a different digestive power by itself. Okay, so that's why few people, when they eat more, they have some issues, but few people, when they eat more, they have no issues, and so on. So which category they are in. You can see that for all people, the graphs are like this. So in Chaturmas region, everyone's digestifier is less, considering all 24,000 data. You can see that. Instead of taking averages in Jan, Feb, March, I took the averages on Prathama, Dvitiya, Tritiya according to Hindu calendar. And again, if you see the graph, you realize that the Shukla Paksha, when the moon is increasing, basically, the fire is very high as compared to the Krishna Paksha when the fire is low. In a common sense, on few weekends when we have pizza burger, we realize that nothing happened. But on some weekend, we feel that, okay, there's some constipation, some bloating and so on. There's a possibility it's, Shukla Paksha, Krishna Paksha effect on
So
us.
the rising moon and the waning moon.
Correct.
Right.
If you follow the red lines, particularly of the Pitta person, of the Pitta Nadi, which is more digestion, you will see that the graph is increasing, coming down on Ekadashi, increasing, coming down on Ekadashi, increasing, coming down on Amavas, and so on. So you realize the cyclic pattern of why there are days with low calorie food, why there are days with eating anything.
So every Ekadashi in Maharashtra will be a fasting day.
Fasting day, there is a possibility. Now we have to actually do a well-sampled, study on this so that we realize that this is actually true. This completely randomized data from patients, healthy people across all clinics has given me this result. So you can so that's why I said that Charak and Shushruta of that time were the data scientists. They have realized that based on some cyclic nature, there are days when some things are up, some things are down in rainy season, in when there is winter and so on. Also, when moon is at some position, moon is at some other position. So that's why when I said earlier, there are so many nadis. It's of that day also. So that's why the complexity is very high. A pitta nadi, for example, a pitta dominant nadi in rainy season has a different effect on me than a pitta nadi of the same numbers. All suppose I have only 22 parameters. Of course, there are many, but let's assume that in all there are 22. So if I copy this nadi and I put in the winter, that may have a completely diverse effect on me because I'm a completely different person in a winter season. So these are all numbers which are coming out from that, and that's why. So for Unilever, we were working on a very specific project that if I know you as a person today, based on your hydration level, based on your skin type and so on, I can give you better soap solutions, shampoo recommendations and so on from Ayurveda point of view, lotions and so on. So we were working on a HR related solution that you are a certain personality from Ayurveda point of view. You are a Pitta person, so you will have a leadership property. You will not be able to cope up with that particular personality. So you should not be teamed and so on. So team building, this and that. So Nadi has a solution not only in health, but in recommendations, in team building, right from career choosing and so on. So the applications are endless.
Wow, so you're telling me this is far more beyond the food
Beyond
that
that.
I'm supposed to have
Absolutely.
on a particular
Absolutely.
day. I'm kind of a little overwhelmed by all this because I came into this conversation thinking we are going to talk a lot about health,
Yeah.
since this was a primary health.
Yeah.
So I'm processing my next questions from a personality type.
Yes.
But before I get into that, what was your biggest aha moment as a data scientist when you saw that data? Like, what was that one insight you never thought would come across that the data threw up to you? Do you remember one or two of these things?
Yeah. So I'll tell you two such things.
Yeah.
One was, of course, the first. Again, I know I'm talking about weather, but that's how the whole journey started, and that's the energy I receive every day.
Yeah.
Even though he's not there anymore, but his energy is still there. So as part of my PhD, I worked on multiple sensors and which sensor is giving the best data from the Ayurveda point of view, from the Nadi point of view. So every time I develop a sensor, I'll take a graph. IIT Bombay, travel to Pune, show that graph to Vaidraj. He will approve, disapprove, this is good, that is, and so on. So on that Eureka day, basically I took that particular graph, showed it to him. Just looking at the graph, he said that it's a female pulse, 25-30 age group. She's having a chest pain. She is having chest pain because of gases. Ask her to do so and so. Okay, just based on the graph. And basically I had taken that Nadi of my wife because she was having chest pain.
Okay.
Right. So that was the eureka point that I have got the sensor. Now what he thought, what he saw is going to be the actual journey. I realized that it's a simple journey, but it was not. It's a very difficult journey because those were the initial days. Now I realized it's a 10,000s of Nadi, so much complexity and so on. So that was the first eureka moment. So first wow factor, that Nadi is possible. Nadi is possible. Digital Nadi is possible. Technology is possible. Taking this to the millions is possible. That was first. And second, the lunar cycle was my wow. I mean,
This
I
traditional
could
knowledge
not.
around it.
I actually, I did that again and again. I ran that particular experiment again and again for different parameters. What I told you was only for a Agni parameter, that it goes like this. For some other parameters, moon has a completely different. So it has on Ashtami, it has a higher point. On some other day, it has lower, and so on. So moon, which is affecting our 70% of our water in different ways, it's actually visible in different Nadi parameters. So that was like another wow factor. How we have realized the power of Tithi in our culture. Ultimately, this data science of Hindu culture, data science of this following with respect to because we wanted all to follow, we put it into our dharma, we put it in our culture, and we think that is more Sanskriti, Dharma and so on, but it's actually science, and we have to look at it. We have to open our eyes and look at it from the science point of view, and I think it will help everyone. So that's what we are actually doing, that let's not call this Vat Pitta Kapha. You call this alpha, beta, gamma, but try to understand that, So whenever I was presenting this particular graph in one of the biggest conference of Ayurveda, Germans got excited. So we are now working with one German company to establish Rutucharya of Germany.
Okay.
So we are going to collect a lot of data in various parts of Germany, and we are going to put this in a cyclic manner, whether there is some other Rutucharya in Germany and so on. So that because this, especially post-COVID, the non-communicable disorders, the lifestyle disorders, the environmental disorders, they are taking place. I mean, the diabetes, BP, hormonal problems, mental disorders, all those problems, almost 70% of them and we are said that in India we will be 70% by 2030. So it's not too far. It's not too far. So they want to establish their own Rutucharya to take care of themselves beforehand. As I tell you, which food to have in which region, which season, morning which food, evening which food, and so on. For example, for a particular Pitta person, we say that this particular food item creates gases, acidity, and so on. But if you eat that in a particular time zone, it does not affect you.
Achha.
So if we can able to, convince to that person, for example, vada pav. You eat vada pav, you enjoy your vada pav, but in this time zone.
Yeah.
In this time zone, you avoid. I think a person who wants to enjoy vada pav in rainy season, the high rainy season, I think he'll realize.
Now, the follow-up question to this is, if Germans are getting excited, have you had a chance to present this data analysis at a non-Ayurveda conference, maybe with Western medicine practitioners, maybe at a data conference, just because this sounds unbelievable that our ancestors probably knew what to eat on an Ekadashi, what you're saying. So what are the reactions when you're presenting it at non-Ayurveda conferences?
So I did that. In fact, so we call this as a data company. We do not call this as a Ayurveda company. We do not call this as a Naadi system. We call this as a some physiological system which is captured and which is giving me enough data to talk to the patients. So 4 disorders we chose: diabetes, cancers, hormonal problems, and blood pressure, because these are the biggest ones in India at this moment. And our results with 3 were very good. The preliminary result. With cancer, we got negative result to start with. So when I say results with respect to these, so we have set diagnostic systems for diabetes. For example, we take a blood report, we take a urine report, and we have defined set of rules that if your blood count or your HbA1c, those numbers are in this region, then you are no diabetes, pre-diabetes, and so on. So there are set rules. And we came up with Naadi patterns for the same number range.
Okay.
And we realized that there is some correlation. When we discussed it with diabetologists, of course, there were 2 types of diabetes, one accepted, one not, and so on. When we discussed this with the Ministry of Health, Science, Niti Aayog, and so on, they got very excited. So Niti Aayog has given me a 1 crore grant only for 10,000 people, clinical validation across India, to prove Ayurvedic way of non-invasive methodology of monitoring diabetes, but in the clinical validation. So for 10,000 people, we are going to do blood report, urine report, Naadi report, and how much is the correlation. Similarly, I think studies will happen in other symptoms or disorders also, and we will start saying that, see, this is yet another physiological signal. You consider this as yet another physiological signal. You need not call this as Ayurveda pulse signal to start with.
Rebranding in the process?
Correct. I mean, I'm just saying for this. Of course, people have started realizing the power of Ayurveda, especially post-COVID. For the same results which I told you, I got the National Startup Award. Modi ji mentioned about this particular work in one of his Mann Ki Baat. So these also actually helped us, that people started talking to us, okay, what is the technology, what is pulse, what is that, and so on. So that's why Niti Aayog also gave us the first meeting. Let me put it that way, and now we have got the grant. It came through Atal Innovation Mission, extremely progressive department, I would say. and very thankful to them that they have given us this grant, because it really, if it gets into that particular zone, that there is a allopathy based solution, there is Ayurveda based solution. Let's compare, let's combine, so that ultimately the patient is the winner. Not a particular pathy, but ultimately the patient should be the winner. This is a non-invasive system. So the sensor which we are creating, which will do 24 hours monitoring, I think that will be more like a 24-hour diabetes monitoring. I don't know how it will turn out as a product designer, how you will design it and so on. But that is how we look into it. Okay. That's the future. So by 2030, we are going to be surrounded by tens, 20s of sensors. There will be a Google Glass, there will 3-4 sensors of iWatch, Fitbit and so on. Sensor in a belt, sensor in a shirt, shoes and so on.
You're painting a very scary picture.
So no, it's the reality. Okay. So our vision is one sensor of all of them should come from India.
Right.
Based on Indian philosophy, based on Indian science, created by an Indian scientist, and we should export it across the world. So that's the vision that we have, that we have exported yoga so far to the world. I think it's now time to export Ayurveda also in completely modern gadgetized format with technologies, apps and so on. So that is precisely what we are working on.
That's a great vision, Aniruddha.
Thank you.
So at this point, actually, I have a question. If Ayurveda pioneered pulse, are there any other pathys that also have the knowledge of pulse, or is it exclusive to Ayurveda?
So if you go to a completely allopathy based senior doctor, let's say in 60s, 70s, they also check the pulse. It's not that only Ayurveda has the pulse, but they also check the pulse. Their knowledge is slightly limited. Let me say that with very careful words, that what they check is rate and rhythm, two important things that they check. Now the younger generation does not do that. Not many actually check the pulse. In Ayurveda, it's much beyond rate and rhythm. Right. Rate, rhythm, texture, depth, amplitude, many more. Ultimately to understand Sarpagati, Mandugati, right. Hausagati and so on, which we have converted into time domain parameters, frequency domain parameters, point care, nonlinear dynamics and so on. So all those parameters basically define Vat, Pitta, Kapha in today's sense. So allopathy also has Naadi. Unani definitely has Naadi. Siddha is also based on Naadi. Chinese medicine has Naadi. Korean medicine has Naadi. Tibetan medicine has Naadi. Their terminologies are different. Some pathys check only one pulse, some check 3, some check 4, some check at different depths, some check with one sensor, 3 sensors. I'm talking about human sensors,
right.
And so on. So there are variations. They call it differently. But ultimately, also there are 8 prominent locations on our body where pulse can be checked.
Okay.
This is the most suitable. A male doctor can feel female's pulse and so on. So that's why this was most developed. But suppose I don't have hand. It's lost because of there are 7 more locations on our body where pulse can be checked.
Oh, nice.
So and again, all those locations are available in multiple pathys. Ayurveda has built all its knowledge, all its diagnosis primarily on this. So Ayurveda is much ahead, but other pathys also have. So from business point of view, even Unani doctor is going to be my customer. Chinese doctor is going to be my customer. And it is very easy for me to convince a Chinese person to buy my machine ultimately, because he knows about Naadi, he knows about pulse. So all pathys across the world know that there is something which is moving here. It can be checked. Only thing is its language is different. Pseudo Science, blah, 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 which we want to convert.
But if so many traditional medicines are talking about it, it stops being a Pseudo Science if they have developed it over years.
Yes.
It's probably our limited understanding.
Yes.
So I'm trying to put a new light in my head about why. Probably if you ask me, what happens is anything herbal gets labeled as Ayurveda. And it's just herbal. It's not Ayurveda. It's not coming from a place of research or science or statistical data that
Yes,
the
yes,
ancient doctors
yes,
probably did.
yes, yes.
So we have done big disservice ourselves to Ayurveda than Ayurveda has done to itself sometimes.
yes.
So we need to be careful about how we label Ayurveda and stuff
Yes.
on
I'm a
products.
very small person right now
Yeah.
to say anything about this because it's a big problem statement. It's a big issue which Patanjali is solving, Shri Shri is solving, all big companies are solving, multiple FMCG companies are entering into the wellness industry. Again, they are solving this particular problem. The current BJP government is solving this through different
Ayush
days, Ministry
Ministry.
of Ayush, through Millet Year, through Ayurveda Year, and so on. So that, people start realizing the power of herbs, power of millets, power of as simple as ginger, power of yoga, power of Surya Namaskar. So one of our experiments at MIT College of Pune, we chose about 50-70 students, asked them to do Surya Namaskar. So we chose the students who have never done Surya Namaskar in their life. So we did Surya Namaskar for several days, gap, Surya Namaskar, gap, Surya Namaskar. And we took pre-post Nadis and the Nadi Bala. And we realized that Nadi Bala increases, goes down, increases, goes down, increases, goes down. So Nadi Bala, which typically talks about your Rugna Bala or your Sharirik Bala or overall
You're talking
immunity in
about
different
strength or
ways.
vigor.
Strength. So we showed that for those students, it actually increased, decrease, increase, decrease, increase, decrease. When they were doing Surya Namaskar, the numbers were increasing. Simple experiment, but shows that how Surya Namaskar is effective to increase your internal area. That's what. And that is what is written. Just a number is showing that this number is changing.
Oh, I would
In
be very
case of-
curious about pranayam then.
Yes, pranayam. We did different experiments with respect to Virechan Kriya. We did different Panchakarma treatments and so on. So we took pre-post of many herbs, many Panchakarma treatment, and we showed that every Panchakarma treatment solves one particular problem. It works on one guna, it solves that. You again come back, it solves another guna, and so on. So it is actually helping you. So otherwise, as a common person, if you go to a Basti or Virechan, you just realize, okay, I'm feeling good at that. But what is feeling good? What is something which is actually changed in you? There is no difference. I mean, there is nothing to see. There is no evidence. But now this Nadi Pariksha is actually giving you an evidence. Through this Virechana, we solved your Tikshnata Guna. Through this, we solved your this Guna and so on. So that is how, this will help. We have a spa report now. So typically when you go to a spa, you have a menu card, which, you go there for rejuvenation and so on. You go to Novotel, there is a spa and so on. So through spa report, we are giving which massages are suitable for you, which oils you can use, which oils you should avoid based on who you are, based on what is your Nadi and so on. So simple solutions based on your Nadi Pariksha.
I have a better understanding why you call yourself a researchpreneur. Because you're doing so much research and applying Nadi to what we are doing in daily life. So Aniruddha, in this particular part, we will love to talk about your entrepreneurial journey. I'm pretty sure you have chosen a very hard nut to crack and it's not going to be smooth sailing, and you've given a hint of that in the beginning. But walk us through what are the challenges of building a tech-based solution in India and especially in the field of wellness, healthcare. What has been the journey so far? And it's okay to say you're a data company, but at the end of the day, this will be perceived as a medical device for all the reasons, right?
Yes.
So just walk us through what that journey has been.
Right. Well, when I started back in 2016, after finishing the postdoc and validation phase and all, the first help I got was from my IIT alumni friends, and that was a good, first ever funding, I would say, to kickstart the whole journey. Built the first team. It was a completely new learning for me and so on. For next couple of years, we actually did more validations, more research. The device came into the picture and so on, and we launched it. So it was based on my experience with doctors and so on. The product miserably failed in 2017 when we launched, because what I realized, what I had imagined that this product will help the Ayurvedic doctors in so and so way, doctor never wanted that. They wanted something else. So the journey actually started when I launched it, and a few doctors bought it just to help me out and so on, because they knew me and so on. So while using it, we sat with them, we understood what the real pain points were, and what's the problem with the machine, what's the problem with the technology, with the patient management software, the report card which we are generating and so on. And based on that feedback, we pivoted something and we relaunched in 2018. And that's when it really helped. So the first lesson was, one, of course, you should love your technology, you should love your field, you should have highest passion for it, but you should not be in deep love in your product or your offering, that you do not understand what really the world needs or your customer needs and so on. So that's the first lesson we got, and it was pretty hard. I mean, we lost some money into it also, and we lost almost a year. And then the product was picked up. We got good connections with doctors. Unilever got interested. We were working specifically for them, a good team, big team, and so on. And sadly, when COVID happened, because we were working for Unilever, I had stopped, or I was, made compromise on the sales of Naadi Tarangini, because as a small startup, you cannot do two things. And during COVID, everything collapsed. We did not have Naadi Tarangini. We lost Unilever project for obvious reasons, and I had to stop the company operations for about 14-16 months for various reasons. We lost all the money from the investors and so on. Of course, my dad bought back some shares out of it, but that's another learning that we got, was keep a good amount of money in the bank to to sustain and so on, because we were getting money from a couple of investors, including Unilever Ventures. We were discussing big numbers with them to launch similar product in the US, in the Europe. Our demos had happened at their Rotterdam main office and so on. So we never realized that this will not go ahead. But that's why a small chunk was remaining, and on one fine day I had no money to sustain, to give salaries to my employees, and the team of 55 people, we came down to 3. I had to let go the entire team. That was the biggest setback that we had. But of course, in that closed operations period, I did a lot of research, worked on the data which we had collected, work on it, did a couple of assignments for people with respect to data analysis, this and that. So you have to be open that sometimes you have to do all the works, which may not be part of your actual vision, mission of the company, but just to survive. So that is what we did in those periods. And then I have restarted the journey now. Got a couple of rounds of funding. Now we are getting the seed round, and now we are going. So it has been a roller coaster ride. 3 things I would like to say. One, which I never realized in my initial days, the support from friends and families. You do not see it, but it is actually there. So when everything collapses, they are the ones who are there to support from finance point of view, from mental strength point of view, and so on. So you have to make sure that you give enough time to them. That enough time could be 1 hour, 2 hours a day, maybe a Sunday, I don't know, you define on your own, but you have to give that time. That's the biggest learning I got. The second is, of course, finances. So I call myself as a research manager, but you have to understand finances. You have to understand the Excel sheet. You have to understand your top line, bottom line, and so on, where the numbers are going, where you can save every penny, and so on. That's what I think the best of best businessmen do, and I never did. Now I have started looking into finances also. Otherwise, I had a finance guy to look into it, but as a product owner, as a company owner, I need to know what numbers actually flow into that Excel sheet at the end of the year. And that's the second learning that I learned. Third is, of course, who is customer. I mean, the focus should not be on the product, but mainly on the customer, that particular person or that particular company needs from you, and you have to make sure that you are satisfying that particular need rather than what you think you want to solve and so on. So these are the three biggest learnings I had from the field, and the difficulties I faced. I think everyone faces different levels of difficulty. It's not that difficulties are not there. It's only that there is a group called IKS, Indian Knowledge Systems, right from health to metallurgy to weather to different sections are there. If you see around us, there are so many problems which India is facing. We are a developing country. I think to be an entrepreneur in this particular country is the best thing which can happen, because there are so many challenges, so many problems, so many solutions are needed. So you choose any problem, which is small, big, whichever you feel like, and make sure that you are solving that problem bit by bit. I think if you have enough passion, perseverance, I think you can solve this. Just keep your eyes open, talk to your parents, talk to your friends, talk to your all colleagues and so on, and make sure that your eyes are open for that particular problem statement, for which you will have enough guts, enough passion to solve that problem. I think the journey could be good.
When you started this, did you do this market study, market size? Because that's typically what is required. So give us a sense for like how big is this whole Ayurveda business in India? I'm pretty sure when you look at the consumable side of the Ayurveda, it can be billions and billions of dollars.
Yes.
But on the diagnostic side, do you have a sense how big this business is?
So when I started, it was a pre-COVID era. So the total addressable, total market for me was in India, there are 6 lakh Ayurveda centers, Ayurveda Charya, and about 1 lakh or 1,50,000 Ayurveda practitioners outside of India. That's the whole market of this particular product. Post-COVID, the wellness market, the Ayurveda market, the holistic market, the naturopathy market, the herbal market, the nature, anything related to holistic sense, that market has like exploded like anything. So the 3.5 health and wellness trillion, 3.5 trillion industry has become, supposedly the number is not out yet, but it is said to be 4.55 trillion industry, the complete health and wellness. And what is increased is wellness. What is increased is Ayurveda, other pathys and so on. So the market has become huge. The same product now we have come up with different applications with respect to wellness, with respect to spas, with respect to yoga centers, with respect to gyms. So now in the B2B region itself, the market has exploded for us. Thankfully in India, many of the Ayush centers, healthcare centers which are there across India, they are also implementing some kind of technology Ayurveda based into their setups. So that is also our market. This particular funding round which we are doing now is for 2 reasons. One, to expand its market, it's a scale up in India, abroad, in these all verticals which I mentioned. And secondly, change the form factor of this tabletop into a wearable form factor. So which will completely, as you rightly said, billions of opportunities in terms of money, in terms of scale up, it will. So we are not creating yet another wearable, because people have, the market is, I won't say cluttered, but it's kind of saturated now. People have bought 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 gadgets on their wristwatches. So what we are actually creating is a clip-on. So you just clip on the existing normal watch or Fitbit or iWatch, and it will do 24 hours of monitoring. These machines will keep going to the clinical setups, medical setups, research centers, colleges, Ayush centers and so on, which become the base centers. And this basically gives a proper sense with respect to personalization, prediction. It will give on its own on your app the recommendations with respect to diet, yoga, music, sleep, water, breathing. Sometimes we forget to breathe. So, this will sense that and it will ask you to breathe. It will give you best possible music, best possible yoga and so on. And whenever this particular sensor gives some activity out of range, you can always talk to a telemedicine person from our team, or you can always go to a clinic which is closer to you using this particular system, or we will have the whole ecosystem ready for them in that sense. So this particular product and this particular patented sensor, by the way, I forgot to tell you, the technology has been granted patent in US, Europe, India, Indonesia, and so on. So the technology is patented now. So this opens up a whole new ecosystem of Ayurveda technology in the typical to clinical setup, hospital setup, home setup, and self-care setup. And from that sense, we want to complete it. We want to make sure that it is helping people from all possible ways.
That sounds like a fantastic idea that now I started off by asking, can I measure my own Naadi?
Yes.
And you're going to do that.
Just to add here, so this, you asked about, the resistance and all. So raising funds for this particular was also very difficult because Ayurveda is slightly no-no. Post-COVID hardware business from investors' point of view is slightly no-no.
Longer gestation times and everything.
I'm combining both. And I'm trying to say that I'm creating an ecosystem in B2B as well as B2C. So, but I'm very happy to tell you that we have got investors like Carrot Lane, EaseEst, Blue Smart, and so on. The best of best entrepreneurs who have created large solutions, very specific with respect to scalability, with respect to design, with respect to, and so on. They have invested, and they are hopeful that we create a solution for the world.
Super.
So that's the journey we are on. I'm very excited now.
I just have one more specific question. Since this is a medical device,
Yes.
Would you fall for regulations under the CDSCO and others?
Yes.
So how do you work around that?
Correct,
What's your
correct,
strategies over there?
So when we started this, it was a Ayurveda device. It was a wellness device. So far we are talking only that. So there is a very thin line, whether you are in this region or that region. But because we are collecting a data from body, from a physiological signal, from definition point of view, it's a medical device from that side. So we started this journey with as simple as ISO 13485.
Okay.
Then as a second step, we did IC certification, which is NABL accredited IC 6061-1, which takes care of your electrical, thermal, drop test, and so many tests which it comprises. We have started with the CDSCO certification process. It's a long procedure.
Absolutely.
So as part of that, we received the testing license. We received the FDA certification for the manufacturing facility, the setup which we have at Hinjewadi. And now the final audit is going on. It's a long journey.
Yeah.
And I think we will receive it in some time is what I feel. So once we receive it, it will have its own benefits in multiple. One, from CDSCO, it becomes a medical device. We are officially, marketeer, distributor on one hand. Second, it opens up on GEM portal, the e-marketplace of the government, which helps us to, go into the different setups with respect to ministry offices or smaller regions and so on. So we are looking for that also. But yes, as you rightly said, the certification process will be needed. It is stringent and we are facing the problems, but we'll solve this.
So you are a data scientist.
Yes.
Data fascinates you. You have applied data science to one parameter on the body and tried to bring evidence to something that is a little mystery.
Yes.
What other, I'm just thinking curiously, what other, may be perceived as occult practices or, for example, astrology and other things. What are the other interests that you would come up? If you had the liberty to take up one of those things and bring more evidence, what fascinates you from a data standpoint?
So if we pick up that book of ICAS, so ICAS about which I just mentioned,
the Indian Knowledge
Systems,
Yeah.
they have published a book now.
Okay.
So that book has, every page has a problem statement.
Okay.
They have done that for us. Let me put it that way. I forgot the names of the authors, but all of us should buy that book. How rich we were from the knowledge point of view in our ancient days. And any page you open that has answer to your question. If you ask me, I will stick to Ashtavida Pariksha.
Okay.
So the eightfold analysis diagnostic process that out of which pulse is the first thing. So we are currently working on tongue. So we are working also on the face. We are working on hand. We are working on the akruti parikshan and so on. So basically, mobile is the best sensor right now. So you just do a video of your tongue, you do a video of your face, you do a video of your akruti, you ask questions, you check some skin textures and so on. And a complete machine learning based approach for that particular section, whether it's tongue, whether it's this, I think that can add value to the tongue, to the pulse, to the Naadi.
Right.
So if I know a person through Naadi Pariksha, I will know better through more questions, through more tongue analysis, through more skin analysis, and so on. So these are the next steps that my company will definitely look into. So we'll start as pilot studies and so on. In fact, we looked into tongue some time back when I had time. The app which we had, we called it Tongue Fee. So we keep taking selfies.
Yeah.
So instead of that, it's a tongue selfie. So every day you wake up, you take a selfie of your tongue and you upload. That's all. That's all you have to do. Very happy to tell you about 2,000 people were involved and they were sending me tongue fees every day.
Okay.
And we followed them, and very happy to tell you those lunar cycle effects which I told you. So even tongue photos, the cracks on them, the colors on them and so on, they change according to what you eat, according to the lunar cycle and so on. So there is a huge, I'm sure the astrology, the kundli and all those will also have similar surprises from data point of view to this. I think all these sciences will merge together eventually, but all engineers, all data scientists, all progressive people should come together, join hand together and make sure that we collect a lot of database and actually create solutions so that it is actually beneficial to the people. Because eventually I'm not solving this problem, but I'm solving the bigger problem of when I say my vision of the company is personalized, predictive, non-invasive health monitor.
Right.
So today when so typically when a disease happens, it goes through 5 or 7 stages. That it starts looking into it, then it becomes a symptom, then early and then finally it's a disease.
Correct.
So those 7 stages, if you are able to detect in early stages, then the cost of reversal is less.
Right.
And
the pain is less, the suffering is less.
Absolutely. Everything is less.
Yeah.
So I think if all pathys come together, I think the prediction can become even better and better. And eventually if I know something is going to happen, because now I have to travel, because I am a businessman, I have to go to Bangalore, I have to go to Delhi, I have to go to Europe and so on. So all those circadian rhythms are going to change. My food is going to change. My stress is going to change. Right now I'm taking care of 35 families. Tomorrow I may take care of maybe 200 families. So stress is going to be there. So all those factors are going to affect me. So if I can take care of them through as simple as breathing, as complicated as, very, very disciplined, this, that, I think that is what is going to help me. And similarly, it will help all people, whether you're a salesperson, whether you're a creative person, whether you have a very monotonous job profile. In all those scenarios, I think such solution will help.
Super. It has been fascinating the way you have built your device and the stories that you're telling, what this is doing. I think Ayurveda is at the crux of getting demystified with this device. And if there's more belief, I always felt that we have done big disservice to Ayurveda as a country where the origin is. We have not marketed it well. We have not found global acceptance, and partially we are to blame. But I think you are one shining example of how a technology-driven approach towards our ancient knowledge can bring it to the benefit of the mankind. Hearty congratulations on your new fundraise. We look forward to what new evidence you're going to bring, and I'm going to watch out for the new data statistical significance that you bring to tongue and other things.
Absolutely.
I'll always be curious about what your new device looks like. Thank you for joining us on 42 Talks.
Thank you so much.
Where you get an answer to everything and everything.
Thank you. Thanks, Pushkar. Thanks again.